Welcome back to Arise News Hour. I'm Charles Goulder. Now to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where after 7 long months, a new government has finally been unveiled by President Felix Tshisekedi. 2/3 of the 65 appointments, though, are those supporting and picked by outgoing President Joseph Kabila. He formed a coalition with his successor, much to the annoyance of the opposition. 3/4 of the new ministers have also never served in government before. Correspondents say the question now is, what power will Mr. Tshisekedi wield with only 1/3 of his own people in government? And another is why this selection took so long. Well, for more, the African Affairs analyst and publisher of Africa Briefing, John Ufe-Ansah, joins me now from our London studio. Good to see you, John. First of all, why did it take so long? I mean, is it because this is the first time that the DRC is having a sort of coalition where both the winner and the loser of the election have to agree a cabinet?
Well, it took long, but it's nothing new for a new president or a newly elected president to appoint his cabinet. I mean, you're in Abuja, and see how long it took President Buhari to announce, his cabinet only last week after winning the elections in February. It's nothing new, but in DRC's case, Tshisekedi is a new kid on the block. Okay, and Kabila's party, his coalition, won about 70% of the parliamentary seats, and also his party had an overwhelming majority in most of the provincial legislative assemblies. So I believe there might have been a lot of horse trading in the background, and for him to come to a compromise in order to appoint his cabinet.
And lots of people, John, have been concerned about the sort of influence the former President Joseph Kabila will have over the new man, Felix Tshisekedi. I mean, is that perhaps reflected in the makeup of this cabinet? Because the feeling seems to be that Mr. Kabila will be pulling the strings of power from the back, even though Tshisekedi is in power.
On the face of it, it appears so. I mean, after the elections, where Tshisekedi won the elections, and that were held on December 30th last year, I mean, most some opposition people were saying that Tshisekedi came to a deal with Kabila, who rigged the election in Tshisekedi's favor, so that Kabila could pull the strings from behind the scenes. But having said all that, I believe that Tshisekedi is being rather pragmatic. Here you have won the presidential elections. The opposition party has more than 70% of the parliament. And again, when it comes to the provinces, the same opposition party, commands an overwhelming majority. So one has to be, I believe he's been pragmatic in doing what he's done to make for cohesion, peace, and all that.
Well, I mean, as you pointed out there, John, beyond Mr. Kabila's covert influence, pulling the strings from the back, overtly, as you said, his coalition have the majority in parliament. I understand they control all the provincial assemblies, and they also have the majority of governors in the DRC. I mean, and now they've got 65 members of the new government. I mean, whilst, 42 members out of the 65 new members, while Tshisekedi's camp have only 23. I mean, the question has to be, how can he run the country when he's clearly not in control of his own cabinet?
Well, he'll have to run the country in a way, but again, though I believe that he's very pragmatic, on the other hand, I believe he's trying to go to bed with Kabila, to rule the country. So the fact that Kabila might wield, a strong influence, from the background cannot be discounted, right? So if he still has Kabila's support, I believe he can rule the country. He can effectively administer the country.
And of course, John, there's been skepticism in the DRC about politicians and their intentions, etc. And there's been no cabinet for several months now. I mean, how much of a test was that for Mr. Tshisekedi? I'm just wondering whether during that period of vacuum, the country has continued and administration has worked even without ministers.
Yes, I mean, it's normal. I mean, again, I cite Nigeria as an example. In the absence of ministers, we have the civil servants who, keep the wheels of the wheels of government turning, who keeps the machinery of government well oiled, until the political appointees are made. So the fact that he was able to appoint his cabinet until now, I don't see it as much of a problem, actually.
John, just very briefly, because we're almost out of time. I mean, are the new members of government the big players? Are they people that many Congolese will recognize, or are they, not known by the general public in the DRC?
Well, most of them are not very well known. I mean, some of them are technocrats, some are not very well known. But it's not a question of popularity. To me, it's a question of the ability to deliver.
Okay, John, as always, thank you very much indeed. John Ofe-Ansah is the African Affairs Analyst and publisher of Africa Briefing. He was talking to me there about developments in the Democratic Republic of Congo.